to the Youth Discipleship Podcast. I'm your host, Miles Map, also known as Map the Disciple. In this podcast, we talk about youth problems and overcoming those problems. Here we also have today Devin. How you doing, Devin?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. Well, let's give them a little introduction on who you are. How did you get into, how did you come to the faith to begin with?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I became a Christian when I was in college. I didn't grow up going to church very frequently at all or anything like that. I went to the University of Wisconsin, Parkside. And the semester that I got there, there was this guy who was starting a campus ministry. He just walked up to me one day, asked me what my relationship with God was like. I gave him a pretty generic answer, no, I'm good, man. I do my thing. Me and God should be straight. I ain't killed nobody before. And he asked me if I wanted to do a Bible study. And it was just the perfect time for me in my life where just going through a lot of turmoil, a lot of stress, a lot of dissatisfaction with my own life. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll try it. Did the Bible study. And I mean, in short, God exploded my mind, made it clear who he was, made it clear who he made me to be. And that was it. It was December 2nd, 2012. I was baptized, fully gave my life over to him, and it's been on and popping since then.
From that point, where is God taking you so far?
Man, in directions that I never thought I would go. So after becoming a Christian, I was walking side by side with the guy that taught me the scriptures and God used to change my life. And at seeing him and how he was helping other people, how he had helped me, I had said to him, man, I want to do what you do. I want to be a minister. So he said, all right, well, I'll train you and I'll show you how to do it. So walked side by side with him for about a year and a half. After that, he moved back to where he was from, which is Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I started leading the campus ministry there. That was 2013 or 14 or something like that. And been in the ministry ever since. Did a couple years in college ministry exclusively. And then for the last 3 years, I've been leading the church, a little small congregation called the Racine Church of Christ. And I love it, man. But definitely wouldn't have thought I would have been here for sure.
At some point, did you lead like youth ministries, like college, high school, something like that?
Yeah. So that's when I say campus ministry, it's specifically college students. So I did that for, I'm guessing like 8 years or something like that. I still go to the college today. Every now and again, a little less frequent than I used to be there every day. I did that for like 10 years. But some of that time I was leading the church as well. So yeah, but in this church specifically, we haven't had a lot of teens. So not a lot of work in high schools or middle schools or anything like that. Right. So. Mm-hmm.
What did you see in your college ministry? Like, what are some of the issues, some of the things that those people were dealing with, just like patterns, basically?
It's really interesting because there had been a culture shift while I was doing it, and I saw it, from what seemed to be beginning to end, man. When I first got there were people pretty interested regularly in knowing God or deepening their relationship. People who grew up going to church or at least were familiar with the scriptures in some way. In the last probably 2 years, it's completely different. The young people, there's people that I've met who grew up same city as me, same family dynamic and things of that nature, but have never even opened the Bible. Like, they don't know anything about it, which is kind of interesting. It's disappointing, but it just shows that now there's a culture, at least on this specific college campus, where God is more absent than he was before. So there's definitely a need, and the needs of the people haven't changed. It's just that God is lower on the options to change their life, in their opinion. That's what I've noticed.
Okay.
So it's wild, man. So
yeah, I met someone a few weeks ago. He said he really didn't even know who Jesus was either. Which I was like, what? Because in some reason in my mind, like, I thought everyone knew who Jesus was, but whether they like acknowledged his existence or not. Like, I thought people actually knew who the name was, the idea of what sin was. Maybe that was just like what I was around when I was a kid, or what I've been around so far.
Yeah.
Have you ever ran into people that thought that they were unforgiven by the things that they've done, or couldn't be forgiven for the things that they've done?
Absolutely. But it's interesting because I don't think there's a lot of people that would word it like that. And the truth of that is, well, what I'm saying is, I've ran into non-Christians who struggle with that thought. They just think they're irredeemable. They're too bad of people for God to even love them. However, I run into more Christians that think that way. So they acknowledge that God forgives and God's all loving. And they'll say it with their lips, but their lives are filled with a lot of actions that communicate that they don't believe that God really loves them or they really are forgiven.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from a lack of understanding of God's love. One, I think it also comes from, in my experience, it's come from culture and family dynamic as well. So the types of people you surround yourself with can either increase or decrease your own self-esteem outside of God. And if before you come to Christ, you feel you surround yourself with a lot of people, or you're born into a situation where self-esteem is stripped from you, then it's a lot harder to believe that God looks at you highly, or is willing to forgive your bad behavior. But if you grow up in an environment, or you put yourself in an environment where people are focused on building you up, not puffing you up, but building you up, making you helping you to understand who you are before God truly, then those people usually do better with forgiving themselves and believing that God has forgiven them as well.
This can also be connected with like the verse Matthew 6:14 and 15. Jesus says you need to forgive or your heavenly Father won't forgive you. That also can count as you need to forgive yourself as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Right.
I would agree. I would agree that that's definitely a problem. And I struggle with that myself. You know, if I do something that causes harm, mentally or emotionally, to someone else that I really care about, it is hard to forgive myself depending on the amount of damage that's been done. So, yeah.
So when those people were unforgiven of either other people or themselves, what are some of the things that you noticed that they would be like, how they would act, or like you could say the symptoms of unforgiveness, or what did it look like when they were unforgiving? How did they talk? How did they behave when they were unforgiving of others or themselves?
That's a good question. When I've seen people be unforgiving of themselves, when they lack forgiveness for themselves, it usually results in self-destructive behavior. And I've never seen, at least, so let me say this, because there is a difference between those who know Christ and have this problem versus those who don't know Christ and have this problem. For those who don't know Christ and don't know the love of Jesus and they have this problem, the self-destructive behavior becomes really harmful pretty fast. So drugs, alcohol abuse, fornication, a kind of behavior that pushes people away more extreme, or violently, if that makes sense. So it gets bad quick. But for those who know Christ, it still can get there, but it's a slower process. So they, rather than get violent towards you, if I'm unforgiving of myself, rather than get violent towards you, I'll retreat from you. I won't talk to you. I won't go to this or that. I'll lack an eagerness to get into my word. And it's just a lackluster, just a lack of desire to do the right things, the things that will actually build me up. And then after a certain amount of time of that, it starts to get more destructive. So I might retreat from the good relationship that Miles would offer me, that would help me get back to Christ. I'll retreat from that relationship and I'll add a relationship that would lead me away from Christ and surround myself or put myself in different situations that would increase the bad behavior rather than lead me towards good behavior. And then it eventually does get to, I've seen many people fall away from their or backslide, I don't know, however you want to consider it. They'll step away from Christ, and then eventually, if you live in that arena for long enough, you'll introduce that same thing that those other folks who didn't know Christ was doing: drugs, alcohol, fornication, you know what I'm saying? All these different things. So,
right. What I've noticed, like in myself, when it comes to unforgiveness, like I would get unforgiveness we can start with unforgiveness towards myself. Most definitely, I would slow down in reading the word. I would slow down in prayer. It's possibility, like sometimes, like I might not even pray for that night. I might just go to sleep and be like, I don't even want to talk. And then it would come to a certain point where I would have to make a choice, either to just sit there and just speak to God and let him put me back together, or I would continue and still suffer because of myself, because of unforgiveness for myself. Right. So when you would be unforgiven, when you would lack forgiveness towards yourself, then it's almost like being like ripped apart to some degree. Like someone is, I don't know, it's also a suffocation on top of that. And when that happens, you have to either pick yourself up or you just like let yourself sit there. And then if you let yourself sit there, you continue to backslide, just like you said. And then eventually it's a possibility you could fall off completely.
Yeah, I would say so.
Right. And that can also happen in a way towards someone else. So when you are unforgiving of not giving someone forgiveness, whether they stole from you, whether they lied to you, whether they give you a false expectation with just their words, which is basically, again, lying, then you begin to be angry you will end up hurting yourself with that. And what I mean by that is you begin to want to do things that you should not want to do. Like, say someone steals from you, right? People eventually, like, in some places, people like get killed for stealing. You get your hand chopped off, you get your hand broken, and it's a possibility those thoughts can get in your mind. Well, I want to hurt this person. I want to make that person feel how I felt, and that's nothing but the devil. And that can make you, stop praying about it. That can make you more bitter. And who else was bitter? Cain was bitter, and he killed his brother. He killed his literal brother, like the person that was born with him. And what do you think you could do if you allow that demon to whisper in your ear? Go punch that person in the face. Go hurt that person. Go say those mean things, right? And that puts you in a state of anger, and it blinds you. It puts a blindfold on yourself, basically. And then you're a plaything of the devil. You're not listening to God anymore.
Yeah, you become an agent of his will, the devil's will, rather than an agent of God's. Yeah.
Someone else that was also like had that issue was the unforgiving servant. The unforgiving servant, he was forgiven by God, or you could say he was forgiven by his master, right? And then he goes and turns around and he doesn't forgive the one that's indebted to him. And after that, the master that forgave him, he gets angry, and then he puts the man that didn't forgive in jail. So you have to, I want the viewers to like think about this. Who are you unforgiving? Who are you not giving forgiveness to? And just remember what I said, that this will make you more angry. This will make you, one, also more distant towards that person because of that anger. That will make you backslide off of things that you already were doing, whether you pray a little bit less, or the how you speak about that person will change as well. When I say this, that also does not mean be a fool. Don't be a fool. Don't let that person just do the exact same thing. If they steal, don't put your nice belongings in front of that person and expect them not to steal again. Don't be a fool. But you have to accept what happened and move on from it. That does not mean be ha ha he he in their face again. But that does not mean be a jerk. Right? What are some of the things that that have built unforgiveness in your heart at one point?
Yeah, there's a bunch of situations that I could think of that definitely caused me just a lot of hurt. I didn't grow up. I grew up in a household with just my mom and my sister for the most part, and my mom is incredible. She's a wonderful woman. She was a wonderful mother. Built a whole lot of self-esteem in me, which I think helped me tremendously as I went on through life. But I didn't grow up with my father, not for the most part. He was in and out and stuff like that. And my sister has a different father, and her father and my mom were married for a while. And then he left. They got a divorce and whatnot. And there was definitely some issues from him. He wasn't the greatest example of a man either. So those are two really important relationships that made it hard to be forgiving towards those particular guys. I didn't get into that stuff until I was a Christian. I didn't think those things were a problem in my life. I just thought, yo, I'm my own man. I got to man up and do what's right for me and my family, yada, yada, yada. I didn't start diving into those emotions until I was probably about 25, and really realized, like, oh man, those dudes really hurt me. You know what I mean? Those actions really hurt me. And I kind of don't like these guys for those reasons. And I had to work on forgiving them just from the heart. But those are, I mean, I don't know how deep you trying to go or whatever, but those are real, like, difficult situations that sometimes resurface, and I have to re-forgive, if that makes any sense. Like, I've forgiven my father. He passed a couple years ago, but I made sure that I told him frequently that I loved him. We worked on our relationship. I spent time with him and stuff like that. So I definitely forgave him for the lack of support that he gave me over my life. But sometimes, the devil will try to slip in this or that thought, and I gotta like put that to bed. Like, okay, yeah, that hurt me too, but but he's a sinner, I'm a sinner, and we make mistakes, and God forgave me, so I need to forgive him as well. I remember one time, this is something a little less heavy. I had met this guy on campus, young guy, at the college. I studied the Bible with him, spent 6-8 months meeting with him every week, spending time with him frequently. Then he fell on hard times. He told me that his dad was in the military, and that his dad was like somewhere like in Virginia or something like that. His mom and his little sister were up and leaving town, moving to another state, and he was in school, so he didn't want to go, but he didn't have nowhere to stay and all this other stuff. So I talked to my mom. I was staying at my mom's house at the time, and I talked to her. I said, "Hey, this young man needs a place to stay. Can he stay with us?" So I put him up, fed him, gave him a place to stay, got him a job, everything. And one day he was supposed to be at work. Like, we worked at the same place. I got him a job where I was working. He was on the shift. I wasn't. I let him use my car because I wasn't going nowhere. Turns out this man left, didn't go to work, took my car, went somewhere else. I call up to the job like, "Hey, where's so-and-so?" He not here. He left a long time ago, and dipped with my car and didn't come back until like late in the night, and just tried to sneak into the room and go to sleep. So I had to talk to him like, "Yo, how was work, bro?" You know what I mean? Like, how was work? He like, "Oh, it was good." I said, "You gonna lie to my face like that? You gonna sleep in my room and lie to my face like that? You wasn't even there. You took my car and went somewhere else, bro." He like, "Oh yeah, da-da-da-da-da." So that really messed me up because I had, laid my life on the line for this dude. And then come to find out, a couple months later, this guy was telling all kinds of lies, lying about everything, lying about his dad, his mom, lying about the reason why he was coming to the church. He was trying to infiltrate and sneak in and get some information for his congregation. It was wild, bro. So that really messed me up because I trusted this dude. But we had a couple of conversations and stuff, and there was reconciliation through there and whatnot. But anyways.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've seen him a couple times over the years. People, the more you get around people, the more you start talking to folks and whatnot, trying to help people with deep-rooted issues, you just see that people are broken. He really didn't want to hurt me. He didn't know how to accept love. That's what it was.
What type of congregation make you do that?
Yeah, I ain't gonna defame nobody. So, and maybe it was just this one off, but it was wild though.
That is wild.
Yeah, it brought me to tears, dude. So
the most recent, or probably the one I can actually remember recently, actually in the past month or so, one of my actual only friend, my best friend,
Wow,
that I've had for like probably 3 years, from freshman year to junior year, he stole from me. It was about probably like $100 or so. Yeah, right. And it started off like you know how people could have like their own moods and stuff like that. You're gonna leave them alone. And randomly, it was just he stopped sitting by me. We stopped speaking. He said like his phone was off. Dude has 2 phones, right? And then like I see him on his phone. I'm like, bro, okay, all right, maybe it was his second phone. And I was like, all right, yo, I'm starting like these blogs and podcasts and stuff like that. Let's I'll get you on one time, right? It's like, all right, cool. Text me when. And then I text him about it. I don't get an answer. Right. And then about a few weeks go by. And then I remember like we was doing this business thing, right? And I was like, yo, what happened to the account and stuff like that, right? And I know this dude. He seems like the type to go spend some money when he ain't got none, right? He seems like the type. And I give him the benefit of the doubt because he's my friend. He just got back in the church. He just got baptized. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. People start to change after they like give their life to Christ. But I couldn't get into the account. He says his phone is off. I see him on his phone all day. Doesn't want to speak. I go ask him about it. Doesn't want to speak. Like I go to his class and everything, and I was like, yo, because it's the end of the day. It's fine, right? I wave him over. He rolls his eyes as he gets up. I noticed this. I peeped this, and then I like ask him like, how you been? What's going on? And then like it's a normal like I don't want to talk to you type of conversation. I leave it alone.
Wow.
And then after that, like I'm like, is it okay for me to be angry at this dude for stealing from me? Is it wrong for me to label him as a snake at this moment? Is it wrong for me to do that? And then I call my pastor and I ask him, like, if he does not come to me for forgiveness, how do I deal with that, basically? And he tells me, you still have to forgive him. Whether he comes to you or not, are you going to allow that into your heart? Are you going to allow that unforgiveness to just sit there?
Right.
And then like, it just like, it is what it is. If he needed that, I guess he's going to have to take that. So it's like $100. It is what it is. The money is going to go away eventually anyway. I was going to have to spend it on something.
Yeah.
He's going to have to take it. And then he's going to have to answer to God about that. Hopefully he does repent, whether he comes to me or he doesn't. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, so that's tough, man. It's tough when there's people close to you, right?
Right.
I guess I got a question for you. So have you talked to him about it specifically?
Not specifically.
Okay.
Is because I've even like had like dreams, like, bro, it seemed like you need to go speak to him. But then like I go up and speak to him. He doesn't seem like he wants to have that conversation. I ask him like, hey, how you been? What's going on? What you been up to? Yeah. I just been by myself as I see him with everybody else. Right. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it at that. And I'm gonna just move forward. Yeah. Yeah, man. So there's a passage, it's pretty interesting. So it's a passage in Galatians, and it talks about basically, if you see your brother in sin, then you speak to them about it. And if they listen, then you've won them over. But if they don't, it's for them, right? And then it also says, be careful when you get involved in people's sin, so that you don't be tempted yourself. Right. If this young man is a Christian, by God, you're obligated to say something. So that's just something to think about. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's just like this young man that took my car for a little joyride or whatever. It's like, all right, you said that you wanted to follow Christ, right? So I have to confront you about your sin. I can't let you die in it, because
It's also a passage in Ezekiel where it says that we're watchmen, right, on a watchtower. And if you see someone in sin and you say something and they don't respond to it, their blood is on their own head. But if you see someone in sin and you don't say anything, they will die for their sin, but their blood will be on your hands because you didn't say anything. It's a very hard calling, for relationship. But, I think it's God ordained for that, because that doesn't just build an opportunity for forgiveness. It builds an opportunity for reconciliation, which is at the heart of what God desires. Is not just forgiveness, but it's reconciliation. So unless you really talk to him about it, then there's no opportunity for that relationship to be what it was or even better because of this difficulty. If you leave it alone, then there's hatred that could build in his heart. And, bitterness that can grow in you as well. Now you can try to address your own bitterness through forgiving him from a distance, but there's something beautiful that comes in forgiveness and reconciliation, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. But it's hard, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make it happen when I see him next.
Yeah. I'd go after it.
That also addresses our next topic. How should we feel when they don't come to us? But you also got to think, how does God feel when he died on the cross? Mm. And what about the people that didn't go to him, that didn't say, I'm sorry for sinning. I'm sorry for not doing what I'm supposed to. I'm sorry for disobeying. How do you think that makes him feel? Mm. We had this conversation the other day.
Yeah.
He said, sorrow, sad, upset. And yet he still has patience for those people waiting. Mm. What's your take?
I think, obviously God is the standard for all these things. And there's such a difficult, it's such a difficult position to be in, to give your all to anyone, and for it to possibly not be acknowledged or anything like that. I think for myself, it only builds my love for God, knowing that he's willing to do that, knowing that he's willing to go to the cross, knowing that he's willing to shed his own blood and possibly, right, not win your heart over. And you still, like the people at the scene of the cross, right, you still spat on him. You still disregarded him. You still mocked him. You still took his items and cast lots for his clothes. And you know what I'm saying? You still pierced his side. And he knew that was possible, and it didn't stop him from going. It didn't stop him from dying. So I think understanding that, if we really understand that level of love from God, then it'll only increase our ability, knowing that he did that for us, to kind of lay our lives down for other people, whether they accept it or not. So,
and on top of that, he's outside of the realm of time, so he sees it all.
Yeah.
What you gonna do? Who's going to come to him? Who's going to give 100%? Mm. And his closest friends even denied him on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that hurts even more.
It would hurt the worst.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think also we need, well, like you said, reconciliation. We have to understand reconciliation, even if that person, at least I think there's a certain gratification that comes from you doing your best to reach out to that person, even if they don't come to you or that you don't like come back together. But there's a certain gratification that comes from one, doing your best, of course, in anything, doing your best, giving it 100%, especially giving it 100% in a relationship or a friendship or whatever. And if it falls apart, it falls apart. At least you know for a fact that you gave it 100%. What everyone needs to understand from this episode is forgiveness is 1, needed for growth. Forgiveness is 2, needed to make sure to also keep yourself in check. 3, God forgave, so you must most definitely forgive. 4, give it 100%. Give your forgiveness 100%. And don't listen to the devil, because he will be right there. Again, you've been listening to the Youth Discipleship Podcast. Do you have any last thoughts, Devin?
None other than I'm really excited to see a young man willing to do something like this, to have these kinds of conversations, to be speaking about God and his will and his desire for people and stuff like that. And to see you, Miles, putting your life and your heart on the line to communicate God's message. It's really encouraging to me. So keep up the good work and don't let the devil distract you from doing God's will or living your life for him. And, impact as many people as you can, but also don't ever think that God loves you more for greater success or lesser success, but just the fact that you're willing to do it, it is pleasing to him. So keep up the good work, man. I'm really encouraged. And if you want me back, I'll come back whenever you want.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Again, you've been listening to the Youth Discipleship Podcast. I'm your host, Miles Mapp, here with Devin, and God bless.